Welcome. Special live, uh, quick take, quick analysis of the pound for pound box report. Doing a quick take of Keith Thurman's split decision win over Danny Garcia tonight to unify the WBC Welterweight champions. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me on this special uh, quick episode, quick take show. Daniel Carpio from the Inscriber, longtime fan and supporter of the pound for pound boxing report. Mike Money, what's going on, fellas?
Good evening.
Good evening. It's great to be back.
Indeed. So let's get into it. Thurman Garcia just ended. Like I said, Thurman ended by winning by split decision. 115, 116, 112, 115, 113. Garcia had the third scorecard, 115, 113. Um, I'll just go immediately. Since you haven't been here in a while, Mike, I'll just go to you first. Your overall impressions of the fight. I'll just say quickly, for me, it was just a case of Danny Garcia not being active enough, not throwing enough punches. He got hurt early by Thurman, but after that, it was a case of Garcia showing good skills, showing good defense, especially. But he let Thurman out hustle him. It got off to a firecracker start early, but mid rounds or so, the fans started to boo. I disagreed with that, but it is what it is. And Keith Thurman ended up getting the decision. I had an 8-4, 7-5 in that range on my card. Your thoughts, Mike?
Well, I had I had 7-5 Thurman and then you asked me about round 10. I had to fight a lot closer. Like so, a lot of people that we follow had it 7-3 or 8-2, but I had it a lot closer than that. And I totally agree with your assessment. Danny Garcia, he could have won this fight. He was not throwing. He was not throwing enough. He wasn't active enough. He wasn't cutting the ring. I thought going into this fight, it was going to come down to two things. It was going to be either Danny Garcia's footwork's cutting off the ring and going to the body, which he did, but he really didn't go to the body that much to slow Keith Thurman down. Um, Keith Thurman control him and then he later on in the fight, Keith Thurman he was starting to throw his jab more, and to your point, Danny Garcia, he was showing some good defensive skills, but he just wasn't throwing. He just wasn't countering enough. And Danny Garcia is a pretty good counterpuncher, so I was expecting a lot more from him. I mean, the split. I knew it was going to be a split decision because this is Danny Garcia who we talking about. He for some reason he does get those close decisions, and I actually my prediction was a split decision. The same scores, 115, 113 for Danny Garcia. But looking at the fight, there's no way in how I can give Danny Garcia 7 rounds. Keith Thurman, he did win this fight. He almost gave it away because there was a couple of rounds that there was a little bit of lull in the action. And there was some other rounds. There was a lot of close rounds that Danny Garcia did not really take advantage of. So good fight. It was highly anticipated. It was a very good fight. I enjoyed it, but Keith Thurman did win.
Um, I'll go to you, Daniel. Garcia, when I see him, I see a guy who likes to counter and who does a lot of pot shotting. I think that style in this fight uh, really cost him. When he let his hands go, he was more accurate than Thurman, um, landing good shots on Thurman to the head and body. But again, as I stated earlier, um, he let at too many points during the round and overall during the fight, he let Thurman set the pace. He let Thurman make the play in this fight, if you will. And again, at the very end, it cost him. And I'll keep reiterating this. Um, Thurman was more active. Garcia wasn't active enough. And at the end of the day, that was the difference.
You can tell easily one of the things that, like I said, on Thursday, is one of the reasons why I picked Thurman. Mainly because Danny Garcia does everything well, but he doesn't do anything great.
Mm.
And Keith Thurman, Like I said, he has good food, really good food movement, and he has power, which you can tell. Like I think in the first, second round, you can tell bothered Danny a little bit. He didn't go drop down, but he probably is the most hurt you've seen him in a fight. And there was a little bit of issue with the left eye that was starting to swell up a little bit. But I got to give it to Danny Garcia's corner. They did keep it under control. The issue when it came to the type of fight that I think Danny Garcia wanted to fight in was he really wanted Keith Thurman to act more like Amir Khan, where Keith would just throw punches, try to establish the hand speed, but ultimately throw a hook where he can land his left hook and counter. The problem, though, is that Keith Thurman moved a lot to the left, to his left, to make sure he stayed away from the left hook.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, as Scorsese pointed it out, I think pointed out in the Hangout with EJ Boxing Live, the way that Thurman moves around, you can't really time him. It's a little bit unorthodox. It's not really herky-jerky, but it's unorthodox in a way where timing him is very, very hard. And that's if you're a lead puncher. Danny Garcia is a more natural counter puncher, so he's not really comfortable leading. And another thing that I noticed as well, like in the beginning of the fight, Danny was trying to focus on the body. He's trying to throw jabs to the body. By the late rounds, he abandoned that. Try to go clear for the headshots. He landed body shots when he could, but he abandoned it. And ultimately, that's what probably cost him the fight.
See, when we was doing a preview of this just a couple of days ago, I had asked one of my guests, Gus, do you think that Thurman is a guy who's a boxer that happens to be a great athlete, or a guy who's an athlete first and boxer second? I think in this fight, it proved to me that Thurman is an athlete first and a boxer second, and it shows in what you just said. The fact that the way that he moves is unorthodox. It's not status quo, for a lack of a better term. You can see when you look at Thurman in the ring, he doesn't move as gracefully as your traditional boxer. He moves like a guy who could play another sport, but just happened to take up boxing. You know what I mean? And that being said, that kind of confused Garcia, who we knew all along, has trouble with guys who can move. So you put that together, plus the little bit of an unorthodox nature to Thurman in the way he moves. Garcia didn't adjust enough. Your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But one thing about Danny Garcia, and you just alluded to it. I'll take it maybe a step further. He like late in fights, he doesn't make adjustments. If you look at the Herrera fight, if you look at the Peterson fight, there weren't really adjustments made. And if the fight went into the later rounds, I knew Danny Garcia, although I picked him to win, I knew if it went to the later rounds, he doesn't make the requisite adjustments for him to get victory. So I knew that was going to be trouble for him. And then and at the tail ends of the fight, you know, even although Keith Thurman, not the 12th round, but Keith Thurman, he almost cost this fight with this somewhat in action also. So I totally agree, Brother Mike, with your assessment that with the adjustments with Danny Garcia, he wasn't really making those adjustments. And then with my brother Daniel, he said it too. He abandoned the body work, and he abandoned the body work. He wasn't really countering. There was a lot in action, and that's what led to his first loss.
Yeah, to your point about Thurman, shout out to Scorsese who said on Twitter, his fear was that even though Thurman was winning this fight, he was worried about Thurman, what would happen to Thurman, what happened to De La Hoya against Trinidad, excuse me, may happen to Thurman late in this fight because the last two rounds, especially, he didn't do much.
Nope.
And to your point, Mike, Garcia in the past has had a habit of winning close fights, and I saw this on Twitter where people were worried that Garcia may get the decision as a result. Question here: you mentioned the lack of adjustments by Garcia late in fights. Um, I will go here. A lot of discussion about Angel Garcia and what he said prior to this fight. Uh, how did you like his his words in the corner, his strategy, particularly late in this fight? Because while he was saying on the one hand, Danny, you need to do A, B, and C. At the same time, I heard on more than one occasion him telling Danny that look, Thurman's not doing anything. He can't win the fight fighting this way. So I'll just open up, and any of you two can respond. Your overall assessment on the corner work of Angel Garcia, especially in light of all the attention that he got for not so good reasons entering the fight.
Well, it kind of shows a little bit how the glass eye of a father stepping into it, because he was telling him to do ABC, but he wasn't really doing it in the same way that he could do for adjustments. In fact, like just recently, uh, somebody on Twitter that's in the post-fight press conference already said that Angel wants Danny to retire since he's disgusted by the decision. That's unfortunately what's happening. And he can point out things all he wants, but he's not willing to say. He wasn't willing to say to Danny, "You're losing this fight. Like you're not doing enough." Or he was just saying enough to say that Keith doesn't want to engage you. He's afraid of your power, but you have to do this, this, and this. Meanwhile, like if you look at the start difference, Thurman's corner was telling him to just box smart, and then later on said, "You have this," which gave actually, which scared I think me and EJ a little bit because, and Al Bernstein actually mentioned it. Al Bernstein, when I mentioned it, it could have had the same similar feeling of Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad, where De La Hoya clearly won the first half of that fight, and almost you could say the 2/3. But towards the end of the fight, he decided just to box, and the rounds were close enough where ultimately it gave the decision to Trinidad. People were afraid of that situation. In fact, like the main meme that's going around on Twitter right now is that little 10 seconds before, as Jimmy Lennon Jr. was about to announce the winner, it looks like Angel Garcia is already thinking, "Oh, Danny won."
Oh, he did. They both thought he won.
They both thought he won. Yeah, but then when he came out, Keith, one-time Thurman, their faces. And of course, this is just coming off of Brian Campbell of CBS Sports now, not ESPN. This is how you should send his sentiments, Mike. Thurman and Garcia briefly hugged at presser before Danny Garcia left. Trainer Angel Garcia then told Thurman off on the way out.
Classy in the beginning, classy at the end, I guess. Your thoughts on this, Mike?
I mean, brother Danny, he said everything pretty much I wanted to say. There's the fundamental, and it goes back, and with anything, it goes back to the fundamentals. Danny, to me, one thing I did not hear from Angel Garcia was cut the ring off. I really didn't hear that at all. Although, if he's moving around the way he was moving around, you have to cut the ring off. and I did not hear that from Angel Garcia. Angel Garcia, and then going back to my original point, the lack of adjustments that Danny Garcia make finally bit him tonight. And then when you listen to Dan Cunningham, to Daniel's point, box smart. And I feel as though, again, that really cost him, the lack of adjustments from Danny Garcia. I will never say Danny Garcia should get rid of Angel Garcia as his corner, as his trainer. Never will say that. But one thing I hope Danny Garcia will tell his dad, which you probably won't do, he's gonna have to tailor it down, because he all the pre-fight stuff, and now look what happened. You lost. More emphasis on, Danny Garcia and the adjustments he needs to make and everything in the ring, and let's cut out the out of the ring nonsense. Because now look, he got his first L. Now he's talking about he wants to retire, which is nonsense. And there's still some big fights for Danny Garcia. But they have to figure out something. Angel Garcia has to look in the mirror and be like, listen, I have to figure out something and tell his son, I need, put him in the right positions and make the right adjustments throughout fights, so this won't happen to Danny Garcia again.
He's too hyperbolic. He's too emotional at this point to think that you was going to say something, Daniel.
No, I was looking actually a video. I'm going to play it right now for you guys. It comes from a reporter, Victor Salazar, and this is what. And I have to do this, Mike. This is the way Angel Garcia left the press conference.
And excuse me for any bad language. Go ahead, Daniel.
Way down to his balls. He was sucking his penis on the top of his penis or a little dick, probably.
Okay, guys, thanks.
He ain't from Philly. He ain't got a big dick.
Thanks.
Well, he from Philly. Got a big dick.
Take care, guys. That's it.
Yeah,
There you have it, folks. For people who may get on me and why you so hard on Angel, like I said, keep it classy, Angel. Even when he wins, he acts a certain way, and as evidenced by that clip, when he loses, he acts the same way. It is what it is about him.
yeah. I want to go into I know, Mike Money, you don't want to go this far. I am willing to go this far. Danny should leave his father as a trainer, because unfortunately we're seeing the point now where he's no longer looking at him as his trainer.
Mm-hmm.
He's just barely looking at or looking at Danny as his fighter. He's just looking at him as his son. And doesn't matter if you're a father, you're an uncle. When you have a cousin, or when you have a cousin, a niece, nephew, son, daughter, that's going to override anything you do professionally, unfortunately. And we're seeing that play out with Angel Garcia. If you look at the post-fight press conference, Danny Garcia actually took this loss pretty well, because I think he knows that there are a couple of other decisions that he knows he got away with. But he took the loss. He took it humbly, and Angel's the one wilding out. And unfortunately, when it comes to Garcia, like I said, this is his best opponent that he's faced, and it showed the limitations of his skill set. For a guy whose nickname is Swift, he doesn't have swift feet. He doesn't have swift hands.
Well, here's the thing. He actually showed good defense tonight. In there were plenty of times where he made Thurman miss. The problem is he didn't make Thurman pay enough.
That's the thing. That's what I mean. He doesn't have swift hands. He was slowly going into what I probably would call the Adrian Broner zone. Like one of the criticisms I have of Adrian Broner is if you hit him, he literally has to mentally reset before he does anything else. And Danny was doing that as a defense going in there. He was making Thurman miss, but then nothing happened afterwards. He wasn't doing clean counterpunching. So,
lot of discussion pre-fight hype, first welterweight unification bout. The winner will be the first unified welterweight champion since Trinidad De La Hoya '99. Brought Sugar Ray Leonard to the broadcast table. They kept asking him about that, his fight with Hearns in the pre-fight, whatnot. Simple question. I'll start with you, Mike, and you can follow up, Daniel. Did the fight live up to the hype?
To me, I thought it did because I knew it wasn't going to be some all-out brawl that hopefully a lot of casual fans was thinking. I knew this was going to be a very tactical fight. I knew I knew that going in, and then you have 16,000 people filling up the Barclays Center. I knew, to me, it did live up to the hype. I thought it was another good night for boxing, another good night for Showtime slash CBS. Another free fight for us, it wasn't boring at all. It was very tactical. They had its moment, it had its spurts of good action, but as boxing fans, to me it was another good night. So to me, it did live up to the hype. I wasn't expecting a knockdown. I wasn't expecting a knockout. I was expecting what I expected. The top two guys at 147 really going after, but there was some lulls in the actions. But when you have tactical fights like this, you're gonna have lulls in action. So, we unfortunately we live in a world now that's like they want to see the car wreck. And this fight wasn't a car wreck. It was a good, tactical, exciting fight. And to me, it lived up to the hype.
Daniel?
Among us hardcore guys, it would live up to the fight because it was a 50-50 fight. Because there were things that Danny Garcia does well, like going to the body, that we thought would be able to bother Thurman.
Right.
But when you look at it to the expectation that Keith Thurman put himself in Barclays Center in the fight with Sean Porter, people were expecting him to fight the same way he fought Sean Porter. The difference is Sean Porter comes forward. He makes you get into the action. Danny Garcia doesn't do that. He's a counterpuncher. He needs you to lead so he can land his best punches. So in a way, I could see, like, you saw the crowd, I could think in the middle rounds turn on it a little bit. I could see some people saying it was disappointing in the sense of the fact that when it comes to Keith Thurman, they expected a Porter fight, but this was the fight that I kind of expected a little bit. It was close in some rounds, but I figured Thurman would do enough with his skill set to win out. And that's what ultimately will wind up happening. He won, and now he's a unified WBA, WBC welterweight champion. And right now, I think he at the post-fight press conference, he literally said he has no idea what he's going to do next. The logical option to me with Thurman is get the WBA business taken care of with Lamont Peterson. Because there's another test of somebody that goes to the body. And it makes the WBA's decision to consolidate their belts seem valid. For Danny, that's a little difficult. That's a little difficult to decide because it's his first loss, and that's probably going to take him out of some rankings. So he's not going to challenge for a title shot anytime soon, unless he goes back down to 140.
He can't because he can't make that weight.
Yep. Or he finds his dad somehow convinces him to retire, which I do think is ludicrous. You shouldn't retire just because you have one loss.
He's just being emotional. He's not going to retire. Let's go to you, Mike. Daniel just basically spent some time pondering the future of both fighters. Where do you see each fighter going? Do you see Thurman fighting essentially the mandatory against Peterson? Do you see a rematch? Or since Thurman in the post-fight press conferences, Daniel reported said uh, Thurman he doesn't know what he's going to do. Will there be more clarification? Um, when will there be more clarification at the end of May when Brook and Spence finally get in the ring? Because I say that because in the pre-fight on CBS, they had Berto and Porter to announce their fight, but they also had Spence talking to Spence. And the thing that was funny was they asked Thurman and Garcia about Errol Spence, and they gave an answer that said to me they really don't want to fight this guy because they didn't really go into it. Well, he needs to fight a tough. He needs to get into a couple of tough fights, which said to me he's still that dude, Spence, that these other welterweights do not want to talk about, namely Thurman and Garcia. Your thoughts, Mike?
Well, I was about to say, and I was about to say the winner of Spence and Brook, but if he has a mandatory with Peterson, get the to Daniel's point, get the WBA, get that mess, get that cleared up. You know, and so then I have Thurman as a favorite in that fight. So if let's say if he goes the Peterson route, beats him, so maybe end of the year, he can fight Peterson maybe July, August, and then he can actually take another fight in December. I wouldn't mind seeing Errol Spence, the win of Errol Spence, Kell Brook. After if he beats Peterson and Thurman in December, that'll be a goodie. And as for Danny Garcia, boy, I hate to say this name, but I've seen a lot of on Twitter the past hour. A lot of people talking Danny Garcia and Adrian Broner. Now, there was a time a couple years ago I would have loved to see that fight, but maybe being that as volatile as Adrian Broner is after his last fight, maybe this is the time that Danny Garcia and Adrian Broner, and that'll be a pretty good fight too. Um, for Danny Garcia, that's the it kind of makes sense too. So let's see if that happens.
Assuming this is jumping the gun here, assuming Spence beats Brook, do
Right.
you really think that Keith Thurman will fight him, and do you think he will beat him? Because based on what I've seen tonight, and I made a comment about this on another channel. Based on what I've seen tonight, Thurman got the win, yes, but I'm still not sure whether he will beat Spence.
I'm thinking that exact same sentiment. I don't think he's if and then this is a big if Spence beats Brook, I definitely don't think that Thurman can beat Errol Spence Jr. at all. And then I've seen some people on my Facebook page saying that, let's say for argument's sake, Brook beats Spence, well, that's going to be a goodie. I can't wait for that one. I don't think they think Thurman can beat Kell Brook either. So
If that happens, I was saying this before the Golovkin fight. If Brooks beats Spence, ooh, I just don't know. I just don't know because Brook has the skill set and this tremendous size at 147. Um, Far more stronger than Garcia is, and I think he's a bigger puncher. Assuming he beats Spence, and can still make the weight at a decent, at rather comfortably. I know he's always going to struggle, but that fight, yeah. Put it this way. Thurman is the unified champion, but in no way does that mean he's the man at 147. Your thoughts,
no.
Daniel?
No, and that's what makes this fight with Spence and Brook coming up pretty interesting because everybody pretty much has the notion that Spence is next in line, just because of the manner that he's fighting. And let's say if Spence beats Brook, I don't see Keith Thurman probably fighting him this year. That's it. I'll see him probably try to go for Lamont Peterson. Maybe even if, like I said, and because there's another little fight on the horizon that if a certain outcome happens, he could do, which is should this Manny Pacquiao Amir Khan situation become solidified and Khan wins, he could go for unification with Amir Khan, who, by the way, is still technically
Spence,
WBC mandatory.
Well, you mean Thurman and Khan? Yeah, okay, I get you.
Thurman,
I get you.
Yeah, Thurman and Khan. So he could go that route rather than face Spence this year. If Brook wins that fight,
Khan wants none of them.
Khan won't fight Brook. What I mean in the sense that Thurman will probably fight Spence.
Brook, or he won't, or Spence.
Neither one, yeah. But that's why he's going at Pacquiao. But the thing with Thurman, if you put Thurman and Brook together, size difference, I would probably want to give it to Brook. But I have to see him make welterweight. I have to see him do it again after adjusting his body to middleweight for Triple G. Because there are certain adjustments your body can make that you can't make again once you do something. And jumping 2 weight divisions is that something. So we have to see how this shapes up. And probably, like I said, it all depends on who wins both of these fights. Because it's true. Being a unified champion doesn't exactly make you the man unless you do something similar to what Terrence Crawford and Victor Posto did, when you pretty much knew those were the number 1 and number 2 guys. We pretty much knew that Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, they weren't the number 1, number 2 guys. By merit, you still have to say Pacquiao's number 1. By merit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, then you can start the argument whether it's then, which currently you could still say Brook and then maybe Thurman, Garcia, and then Spence.
Right.
So it wasn't really 1 versus 2. This is probably like 3 versus 4.
Yeah, and at this point, Pacquiao can be still is considered the man. The reason I exclude him from this conversation because he's kind of on his own agenda right now. He's near the end of his career. So it's highly unlikely that he will fight any of these guys. So that's why I omitted him from this particular discussion. Let's move on right quick before we shut things down. I don't know who saw it. I don't think you saw it, Mike, but I believe you did, Daniel. Main undercard on this televised bout. Erickson Lubin defeating Jorge Cota, destroyed him in 4 rounds. Look, on the show this couple of days ago, I was a little bit hesitant when you Daniel, and Gus and the others was suggesting that right now Lubin will defeat Jared Hurd. I'm not all the way on that side yet, but I'm beginning to lean over there. Because look, while Cota, he's been off for a year and a half. That being said, that was awfully impressive what Erickson Lubin did this evening.
Yeah. And you have to look at it the way the fight was adjusted. This was a southpaw fighting a southpaw.
Yes.
So both of these guys were trying to make adjustments on it. And Cota had a pretty, like I said, had a pretty awkward defense. But he was shaped up pretty well. But the fight turned when both of them turned to orthodox. Lubin started did it, then I think Cota did it to counter. But that left Cota open for that right hand. It wasn't the right hand, it was a left hand that Lubin threw. That ultimately ended the fight. Now, that's the thing that's what I said when it comes to Hurd. Hurd, yeah, he'll try to grind you out, but when I see things like that from Erickson Lubin will not let you grind you out. He's going to try to dictate the pace and adjust when he needs to. So, and that's a good difference fight. Like now, he's now the mandatory for Jermell Charlo, and Jermell's fighting actually his mandatory fight at the moment, and that's another division turner because Because let's say Jermell wins his fight, and then Lubin beats him. Like I said, that's a perfect unification fight by the end of the year, especially with the activity level that Lubin has been on for the past couple of years. They mentioned it like in 2 years he's won nine fights. In this day and age, how many heard of a top level prospect at that weight class fight 9 times in 2 years?
I know you didn't see the fight, Mike, but I want your reaction to the results. Um, to Lubin and his win, the prospect of him fighting Charlo, if not late this year, sometime in 2018. Where does he stand in 154? And who do you think of when you see Erickson Lubin fight? When I see him in the southpaw stand, especially in particular, I see a southpaw version of Trinidad during Trinidad's days on the come up in his early days as welterweight champion. So unwrap that overall. Lubin, your reaction to his win, your thoughts on an upcoming bout with the winner of Charlo Hatley. Where does he stand in 154, and who do you compare him to?
Not seeing Lubin before, and unfortunately, I did not get to see the Lubin fight tonight. The prospects of a Charlo fight for 2018, yeah, definitely any top guy at 154 for 2018, definitely not this year. Not see, I wish I would have saw this fight, so I'd really, without me seeing him fight, because I really haven't even seen him fight before. So
Oh
yeah,
wow!
yeah, I haven't seen him fight before, unfortunately.
Yeah, he has fights on YouTube, so I would advise to check him out.
Definitely, most definitely. But for 2018 for a Charlo fight, I'm definitely gonna probably tonight after we get offline here. I'm definitely gonna check out the fight. It's probably on YouTube already, so I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Oh, indeed. I think we're going to start shutting it down on that note. Quick post-fight show of post-fight recap of Thurman and Garcia. We'll be back to our regular format next week to talk about all the boxing that went down. That upset in England with Bellew stopping Hay. Um, Me personally having egg on my face after Juan Hernandez defeated Nawapan over in Bangkok. Stopped him, not just stopped him, but stopped him in 3, and it wasn't even close. So I suffered a major L in that fight. So we will talk about all of those fights and whatnot. So to close those things down, since it's been a while since you've been on here, Mike. For folks who want to talk to Sweet Science with you or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Mike Money 214. It's great. It's great to be back with you talking boxing as always. Once again, you can find me on Twitter, Mike Money 214. We can talk to Sweet Science, battle rap, politics, whatever. It's just an honor to be on your show tonight, and looking forward to coming back again.
Indeed. Hope to have you back on as soon as possible. Daniel
Yes,
from
sir.
the Inscriber, for folks who want to talk to Sweet Science or politics, Sweet Science, politics, or the NBA, specifically the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
On Twitter, folks, you can find me at Walkers99. And tomorrow night, like I said, me and Joe and Francis for 4 Boxing News, we have our podcast going, and we're definitely going to talk this fight, the Lubin fight, and some interesting action in the UK, which I'll say, like, we'll preview that. It will be.
Oh, you're doing the show tomorrow. I may be available. It looks like I'll be available tomorrow. So.
Yep, and we're definitely going to talk about it's now the leading candidate for upset of the year.
Indeed. And for folks who want to talk boxing or music or anything else with me, you can check me out personally on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. As I always say, if you want to check out all things Pound for Pound Boxing Report, please check out the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Look to the right of the blog page. You will find links to our pages and channels, YouTube, G+, Tumblr, Facebook, as well as where to listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, Player FM. So yeah, this has been a special live post-fight episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, discussing Keith one-time Thurman split decision win over Danny Garcia to unify the WBA, WBC welterweight titles. For Michael Money, for Daniel Carpio, I am Michael. We will see you next time. Everybody have a good evening. Good night.
All right.
Mm-hmm.